This is the first time Brian cursed on the show, and I want to curse really bad. I'm not that type of person that curses
angry,
too much.
Man. Like,
yeah, yo. It's like, what the hell, man? What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Jet Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Marvel news. Fantastic Four box office tracking and the latest on that. And a possible Thor 5. There's been talk about...
Off and on, yeah.
Yeah, about a Thor 5 and Hemsworth writing letters to his fans about not necessarily saying anything about an exit, but more so thanking the fans for his years as Thor. So this seems to be his like Dear John letter to the MCU. More casting rumors for specifically the Avengers, Brian, or
it's like Marvel. There's been a slew of so and so considered for major MCU role, and like there's like 10 of these. I just want to say, what's going on here?
Yeah,
like what's happening right now? Because we got a lot of these in this short span of time.
Yes. And Daredevil ratings reportedly a real concern.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke about it a few weeks ago, or a week ago. I'm not sure when we spoke about it, but it's definitely a concern. And we were talking about this even before Daredevil came out in terms of reaching that bar of quality that Netflix achieved. And no matter how much we want to like Daredevil, there's still issues. And obviously, based on the ratings, there were some issues.
Mm-hmm.
What they were specifically, I don't know. But I tend to sort of throw this one in there. Are people tired of the MCU? Doesn't matter what you give them. Look at Thunderbolts. The word of mouth was great. The movie was good. Was an enjoyable movie. But the box office shows that people are not coming out. Why? It's not because of the quality. It's because I'm tired of you. I don't want to. I don't care, because people were checking out, and those people have not checked back in. Fantastic Four box office tracking, Brian. What's the latest?
So we talked about it a little bit, but 125 to 136 million U.S. Opening weekend. First day sales were the best of any Marvel project this year, so better than Brave New World. Just to put it in rough context, a 125 to 136 opening weekend. That, if you're comparing it to some of past Marvel projects that opened in that sort of mid to late summer, it would be slightly better than, say, Spider-Man: Homecoming. So a movie that went on to make $800-900 million. So if you're doing 125, 136 domestic, you're probably doing 250, 300 global, at least in that opening weekend. That does give you a shot if it's good at 800, 900. So looking fine, right? Looking about what you would hope for, and certainly a lot better than the prior iterations of Fantastic Four. I think a little TBD, because we're going to get Superman ticket sales coming this week. We haven't had Jurassic reports on their box office, so there's still some questions here. But I think some good signs that the Marvel fatigue is not impacting this particular project as much as some of the other ones.
I tend to believe because of, although this will be connected at some point, this is certainly something different than what we've seen in the past. And I think the curiosity is there for the MCU fans, the ones that possibly have checked out, who are curious about this movie. And again, I tend to believe that the curiosity for the Fantastic Four, based on what they've done in the past, now is in the hands of the MCU, and we want to see what that looks like, what they'll pull off. Obviously, Galactus is a big... I'm there to see Galactus, man. I want to see Galactus and how they do this and how those conversations are and what we discover in this film. So there's a lot of curiosity, I think. Excitement, possibly, but more curiosity than that. It's pivotal, obviously, for the Fantastic Four to do well at the box office in order to sort of lay the track down for people to come running towards the Avengers and how that movie ends up. What the post-credit... This is a movie that the post-credit cannot afford to be goofy and meaningless.
It doesn't sound like it's either. The question is how where it goes and how significant. But no, I mean, if it's true, you think there's anything goofy about that? Like if we see Doom sitting next to Franklin and Sue kind of looking.
If that is the case, I mean, it sort of reminds me of The Incredibles, where Syndrome is with the kid at the end. They find him like, hey, you know what? We'll see. But it all depends on how it plays out, right? So we got to see what that is and what it leads to. So again, it's pivotal.
If we come in and it's Doom, but Doom without the mask, and we see Downey and he's talking to Franklin, he says, "I love you 3,000."
Oh man, we'll see, man. We'll see.
Let me throw something else in here for you.
Sure.
Kevin sprinkled in something that hadn't even crossed my mind.
Okay.
So speaking of credit scenes, post-credit scene for Thunderbolts. Of course, remember we had the entrance of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like the Fantastic Four's ship. It turns, you see the name.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin went out and said, what if it's not their ship? What if it's not? And he said, what if that scene is not what it seems? Which clearly he's not going to say by accident. So what's he getting at? What's he trying to put people onto by introducing some doubt? Is that Doom on that ship? Who do you think would it be Doom on that ship? Like, what would be the alternative if that's not the family on their ship heading to 616?
What I tend to think about is, if it is Doom and they say is RDJ in that ship, I just don't want to see him playing on RDJ and trying to trick people sort of situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and I think this shout out to Tracy. Every time we talk about the Avengers, the first thing he said, "What's the story? What's the story? What is the story? We don't know." And I guess it's a good and bad thing. I think it's leans towards good, because we'll find out perhaps a little bit more when we get a trailer or a teaser or whatever. But we'll find out more in the movie.
I just maybe like really sit up and pay attention, because Kevin usually doesn't get into the minutia of the scenes, and he kind of deliberately kind of threw that in there. There's also been a little rumor running around about, at the point about story, that scene of Doom being with Franklin, and then Franklin's cosmic powers becoming a critical lever to how Doom defeats and gets over on some of the Avengers in Doomsday.
What I'm thinking now is probably Doom and Franklin Richards on that ship, maybe.
That seemed, Doom at least seemed to be where Kevin was pointing you. I can't think of any other alternative to that. That it has to be a villainous ship arrival, right? Not a hero's arrival. Because there's also been talk now that it's Franklin who winds up being key to the reset of the universe too.
Makes sense.
So he may be if Loki is the Doomsday MacGuffin, Franklin might be the Secret Wars MacGuffin. But at any rate, that kind of came out, that like Doom is going to manipulate and use Franklin as his tool to kind of either empower himself or defeat Avengers teams.
That's
and then
what he usually does, yeah.
So
Hiddleston and Downey on and Avengers 5. What do you think is going on there?
Well, some diplomatic comments, but really the first time Tom Hiddleston has talked about coming back in any capacity. But he was asked just about reprising the role and about Downey as Doom, having obviously they had shared screen time with him as Loki. And Hiddleston, of course, is very cryptic, but he says, I know some things. I do know some things. He said, it's an extraordinary privilege to still be on the team. There are more stories to tell. I feel like the character has grown as I've grown, and genuinely an honor to still be part of the squad. But then he says, it's remarkable and absolutely extraordinary to see Robert Downey now in the role of Doom, for what it's worth. So, because they've started shooting, so I don't know if that means he's actually shared a scene with him. Like, was he intimating like he'd actually played opposite him? So that got my attention of like, was he referring specifically to something he's already seen in performance, or is he kind of more remarking generally of just like, hey, you know, Downey's awesome. He's kind of everything in the MCU, and now he's, you know, getting to play something else.
Sounds diplomatic, certainly. I mean,
could be.
Why?
Hiddleston said when they wrote Loki season 2, quote, I was sincere in my conviction. I thought that was the end for the character, for what it's worth. I don't agree, though, because to your point, I think that could not end without him being face-to-face with his brother one more time.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So
that's
don't
the
totally
thing.
agree with
That's the
that.
shot that everybody wants to see. We
Yeah.
want to see them reunite again and what conversation that they'll have. So, yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting. You think Thor will be the first dude to go?
Well, we should talk about that because obviously there's this like Thor 5, what's going on, percolating type of thing, but mixed messages right now around Thor.
What do you think of Thor 5? Granted, Love and Thunder was a horrendous movie. Let's just call it that.
We don't have to debate that. Chris Hemsworth basically calls it that, so and blames himself in part for it, but
And I'm sure I'm pretty sure Waititi may not be in his Rolodex and on his phone and his contacts. After that, we'll be doing something with him.
that's a Disney loss first and
Yeah.
foremost. I'm sorry, it's a Disney loss.
Yeah.
They leaned into the wrong things. They gave him the keys too much, and Hemsworth was getting the wrong notes about what to play up and what to play down. yeah, exactly. Right, it's the opposite of the James Gunn screenings for Superman. Right, it's like he got the screenings for Superman. They said, "Hey, man, you're not that funny. Turn that down a little bit." Right?
Yeah,
Love and
man.
Thunder, they went the other way. They were like, "We know what people want to see. We know people want to see more funny, more goofy, more ludicrous." And they turned that up, and obviously it didn't work. I think it depends really on, because so to your point, you're clearly going to get a radical course correction in tone. The question is, will it be too radical? Like, will this be the movie that is like, we're trying to make amends for Love and Thunder so badly that we kind of just don't focus as much as we should on just making a good movie? And I think a lot of that's going to come down to who directs it. And there's been the latest rumor, I have to be honest, feels like too much of a course correction. So the latest rumor that's come up is Sam Hargrave, who's the director of Extraction, is who Hemsworth is pushing to direct Thor 5. Which feels like, I want to make Thor 5 Rambo. I want to make it hardcore, gritty, violent, dark. And I'm like, that feels a little bit more like you're swinging maybe too far. He's still a god of thunder, man. There's still a sense of fantasy. There's still a sense of mysticism. Like, I love Extraction as an action movie. I just don't necessarily need to see that as the tone for a Thor movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to see 10 minutes of him fighting people.
Exactly.
It's a store.
Exactly.
But there is a bit of a redemption sort of. There's that word of redemption being thrown around after Love and Thunder. So perhaps there is that I guess I would call it journey to sort of redeem the character in a way that's opposite of what Love and Thunder leaned on in terms of the goofiness, and make this a little bit more serious. I was always interested in the Thor that had lost a lot. He's one of the guys that lost a lot, right? Even though they've won, but he still lost a lot. And do we have to make him the gloomy type? I mean, I was interested in that gloomy type character, but not towards the point where it was a funny situation. It was, to me, it would have been a more plausible performance of him being a little bit more still remembering the losses, but still having to accomplish certain feats that will prevent more loss, not for just himself, but for everyone else, right? Anyone else that he had to assist. And there would be a certain demeanor. This dude chopped Thanos' heads off without thinking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But
And
from
so,
a place of, that was from a place of despair, right? Like
yes,
yeah.
yes. But he would have that sort of same mentality and struggling with that approach in his decision making going forward, in being Thor and a hero and whatever it is that he has to do. I was more interested in that instead of the left turn of just goofiness, which is what happened.
So I think that's a good question, which is what Thor is left to mind here, because so we've done sort of young, arrogant, impetuous Thor at the beginning. We've kind of done more mature, somewhat regal Thor kind of in the sequel to Avengers 1 time period. We've then done the kind of more happy-go-lucky Thor, in sort of the better parts of Ragnarok. And we've done the down on life. And I agree with you. They kind of probably, Fat Thor, as much as amusing as it was to a lot of people, maybe missed some of the drama that could have been embedded in that part of his life. But we've already explored it. So now you're left with, we don't know how he's going to come out of Doomsday or Secret Wars, if he is coming out of those. But if he is coming out of those, like, what version of Thor can we explore that's still really interesting? I mean, clearly it's going to be more dramatic. It's going to be less comedic, because that's what Hemsworth is saying. But is it, we've kind of already seen broken Thor. So, like, what is it going to be? Like, is it, he's lost Loki before. So, like, losing Loki again is not new territory. So I think it's tricky. I mean, you find the motivations for what makes him interesting again, and what gives Hemsworth a chance to once again find, a new lane for the character. I think the whole gods and Hercules stuff is that's going nowhere. So I don't know if they're even going to bother.
It was a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're going to bother with that at this point. So, or then you start looking at archetypes. Like, what about Thor skewing more towards, say, like a Witcher type personality? Like, is that interesting enough to carry a movie? That's certainly gritty. It's certainly a little bit jaded and cynical, but still heroic, right? Still has a heart somewhere in there. Like, is that a lane that maybe he could try to fill? I don't know. I'm just trying to throw out, like, where can you take this character and say, hey, because remember, if they do Thor 5, as much as we didn't like Love and Thunder, $760 million. So if you're doing Thor 5 with a course correction, your expectation, this is like Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau, like, your expectations are, you better give us $1 billion, right? We ain't signing up for no $650 million exit. So
next up, what's going on with Marvel casting rumors, man? We've seen the names Millie Bobby Brown. We've seen Ryan Gosling. We've seen people wanting to find out what Tom Holland's calendar is looking like to get him. There's just this, look, it's frustration that I think is seeping up in my mind when I hear more names. I don't know what to think about this movie, yo.
It's not even
again.
Yeah.
How many people, like, you're getting these big names? What are you trying to do here? I don't know, Brian.
So it even goes beyond Doomsday, because we've now entered that phase where it's not even like we're specifically getting casting rumors for Doomsday or even Brand New Day. But I go back to starting with, honestly, it was starting around the time the Sadie Sink rumor first picked up steam. It feels like you're getting a lot of young actresses getting mentioned. So, like, Bella Ramsey, star of Last of Us, obviously is an it person right now. That show just wrapped up, big season 2. Headline: Bella Ramsey considered for major MCU role. It's like Hunter Schafer is another young actress, big deal. Like, there was a rumor she was going to be Zelda. She's not going to be Zelda, but then it's like rumored for big MCU role. Like, every actress, young actress, seems to be getting mentioned as, like, Marvel's taking meetings, they're setting up all these things. And I get it. They're trying to get the Mutantverse off the ground, but Pablo, this looks a lot like the thing that we hate about Marvel, which is they're trying to focus on, look who we can get, as opposed to what stories can we tell.
Nasty.
Like you said, I don't know if they're feeling like heat from, like, the Teen Titans movie coming, or heat from Supergirl, or heat from Superman, or they're feeling like we're just losing relevance. And so we've got to be like, look, we're still in the zeitgeist with, like, the younger generation, these people who matter, and we can get them to the table to talk. I'm like, of course you can get them to the table to talk. That doesn't mean anything. Like, they're all gonna pick up the phone.
Yeah.
to have a conversation. A lot of them probably say no, but like they're going to pick up the phone. I just don't understand like why all of a sudden I feel like the frequency of this has gone through the roof. And like I said, it's especially young actresses. I don't see as much of this going on with other than Gosling, which I want to get to. That is the wildest, craziest thing going on right now is what's Ryan Gosling doing, but with Marvel. But like the young actress thing is out of control for the casting. To the point where I'm not even going to read you all of them because it's just like, I know I'm getting smoked.
You know what it reminds me of? You ever seen Juice?
I don't give a.
I don't care about none of this, yo. What excitement are you trying to build? Perhaps you're trying to... I'm not the audience. I'm not the target audience for this. Me and Tracy talk all the time. Kevin's gone Hollywood. Kevin gone's Hollywood. I don't know if it's even Kevin anymore, yo. I think Kevin being bullied into thinking that this is what he needs to do. And Kevin not being able to say no. He didn't say no when he received that phone call from Ali. Look what that ended up.
Still going nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going
There was like
nowhere.
a little Midnight Suns update the other day, and it was like Blade's nowhere in that. Yeah.
Don't talk to me about Blade. Nobody can talk to me about Blade. I don't care, yo. I don't care because I know what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
They're trying to set something else up. They're not thinking about making this character great. Again, the words that live in my mind. Let's do Doom right. That's crazy. So for this small 3 movies that you're going to do, what happens after that? That's the thing that gets me crazy. Like, what happens after that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I also think, like, all these young up-and-coming actors and actresses, like, a lot of them will take that call. But I do think we're a little bit back into that mode that we were in 2010, 2011 when, Chris Evans hemmed and hawed before taking that initial six picture contract to be Captain America, where it's like there's a lot of doubt as to whether that's a good career move, right? It went from being a, should you do this, to a no-brainer for a couple years. Absolutely, you should sign up if Marvel's throwing the bag at you. To now, I think we've come back around almost full circle to where a lot of these up-and-comers are like, I don't know, man. Like, do I want to be Jubilee in the X-Men universe for 12 years? Like, I'm not sure I want to do that, right? I'm just saying, like, I think that career consideration, it is a little different than it was. And so, yeah, a lot of them will take the call. A lot of them will be interested. But, I would just point out, like, I'm not the biggest fan of her as an actress, but Sydney Sweeney's obviously like a very household name these days and like a very hot name. And it's like, Sony got her into Madam Web. I was like, I think if you went to Sydney Sweeney now and said, you want a mulligan on that? There's no way she's taking that call, right? Yeah. She would wait and be like, I want to do something else in the superhero genre. But so I think a lot of these young actresses will be in the same boat of like, should I do this? Should I not do this? I have to be honest. I didn't watch, Sirens was not a show for me. My wife watched it. But Millie Alcock is the co-star of Sirens. She's pretty good in that show. I just watched her a little bit just to see like, okay, what's my Supergirl look like when she's not doing Game of Thrones stuff? And and she's doing an American accent. And I was like, she's pretty compelling. I was like, okay. Like, I was like, it just made me like at the margin a little more excited to be like, okay, they got somebody who I knew was interesting from the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon. And now I'm like, yeah, I think she's grown up a little bit and she can, I'll be interested to see what she does as Kara. But I'm not interested in these names. What the names I'm interested in are the characters you want to bring to the screen. Then I will start to care about who you're attaching to those characters.
They're just giving us names. It's like, okay. Like we're supposed to jump up and down like, oh, she's going to play who. Yeah. I care about the character that they're playing.
Yeah.
And so I can say to myself, okay, that's interesting. I'm interested. Yeah. Just like they did with Millie Alcock. Her playing Supergirl, I think that's a win. But these other names that you're throwing out there, and I don't care.
But they didn't say, hey, we got Millie Alcock, and then announce the movie. They announced the movie, the part, and they said, okay, we auditioned a lot of people for Supergirl. This is our pick.
It's the work that they put in to select that person for this specific character, not just the name. You know what I'm saying? Not just the name.
Well, it's ironic too, because like Bella Ramsey is a good example where it's like that's a very particular look, style of acting for Last of Us because it's a video game adaptation. Like nobody cared. I mean, no offense, nobody really cared who Bella Ramsey was until she brought that part to life and got acclaimed for it. See, that's what Marvel's forgetting. It's like,
was she in Star Wars?
No,
not the movie, but the show, the Obi-Wan. Was she in Obi-Wan?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember the little.
Wow, we forgotten about what Obi-Wan was about. And
I mean, I remember some of the low points. I remember some of the low points of that series, but no. Anyway, so my point is, they bring her into the character. She inhabits the character. Now she's famous, and Marvel's like, well, let's grab her because she's famous. It's like, well, they're forgetting what made her famous in the first place. It's like, feels out of order. Feels like that Harry Styles thing. Feels like that Charlize Theron thing to me.
MCU has gone Hollywood. And when we say Hollywood, they're just picking what's hot and not picking what's right. Not going through the... I mean, sure, these people perhaps have not been casted outright. They're being considered and their names are being thrown out there.
But like, if you... Yeah, pick an X-Men story, right? Pick an X-Men story, an arc you want to tell. Maybe it's the Hickman. Like, pick an arc you want to tell that will inform which characters you want to lead with, the ages, the back, and now you can go cast that. I think they're feeling the heat, man. I think they're feeling real. It almost felt like the combination of Thunderbolts not doing the box office they hoped, even though it was good, and then feeling like DC does have momentum. And I know these studios are rooting for each other in the end, but as we always say, they are still in competition, and they're definitely in competition for actors and talent for sure.
Yeah,
it just felt like a reaction. Like all of a sudden, I'm getting peppered with these headlines, and I'm like, "How about Fantastic Four be good? How about that be the headline? That might work."
Yeah.
Oh, the Gosling thing. So remember, this started as a Richard Rider Nova rumor, like way back when, and then Gosling himself made it a Johnny Blaze. Like that's the guy I want to play. You seen this thing about him playing a white Black Panther? Brian, that has to be the end of the MCU, right? If that happens, that's not happening.
But I think they're doing it in the comics.
They're doing it in the comics. Yeah. They're doing it in the comics. But
listen, if that ever comes to screen, a white Black Panther, I am not going there to sit quietly because this is an insult. For me, is an insult. Because this is one of the characters we said it jokingly, but now people, I don't know if I ever sent you this article of the possible they were thinking about making Julia Roberts Harriet Tubman, What are we doing here, yo? Oh man. I don't know if I can keep a job in these places, yo, because I'll go crazy, Brian. I'll go crazy screaming at these people. What are you guys trying to do here? I'll ask those tough questions. What are you guys trying to do here? Really? Because this is ridiculous.
Well, that particular one, like you mentioned, that like the Julia Roberts as Tubman or Gosling as a white Black Panther, that's beyond ridiculous. That's insulting.
Yeah.
I think it's insulting to everyone.
Yeah.
Like I don't know who that's for. So that's why I don't think it's happening. I don't think Ryan Gosling is dumb enough to step into that. I don't think that's going to happen over Ryan Coogler's dead body, literally.
Yeah.
But the fact that this is my point about the Marvel casting rumor machine. The point that headline even came across to me was like, what? Like, where are we with this? Like,
somebody must have said it and somebody must have leaked it out to somebody. Whoever is saying that, stop talking.
Take it easy, champ. Why don't you stop talking for a while?
Maybe sit the next couple plays out.
Really, yo, like, people saying that, I'll be like, you got to question yourself, like, who's in the room here? Who are the people in the room making these suggestions? That's what I'm saying.
This is not 1930s Hollywood, which was not integrated, and where you're going to have basically, the parts are very stereotypical, and like, or even not even the 30s, even the 60s. I remember there's a movie where like John Wayne is Genghis Khan, and it's ridiculous, but But I'm
Listen,
like, that's how they thought of movies, 60 years ago. Like, we don't need this. And like, not only do we not need it, it's like you have one of the 5 best directors alive running this franchise for you. He's already set up the progression of the story and the progression of the Black Panther persona. Who's coming into his ear being like, hey, I know Ryan Gosling as your new Black Panther. I'm serious. If I was Cougar, I'd be, that's fine. It just won't be.
Listen, man, if they do that, I don't even want to think about it because it's
not
preposterous.
happening. That is not happening.
But the person whoever mentioned that should be
canned.
They should be treated like the dude in The Office. Just move him to the basement or something like that. Like, go do this. For real, man. You don't deserve to sit at the table, whatever table you're at, for making a dumbass suggestion like that. I'm sorry. What you said is crazy. Daredevil ratings reportedly a real concern. We talked about this, Brian, but we haven't talked about what this implies for the future of this.
We got
character.
more context. We got some rumblings from within the studio now post, like, no surprise. Daredevil Born Again not having a single episode appear in the Nielsen top 10, having a debut audience that was 25-30% below even Agatha, let alone where some of the top shows had been. There is already talk that season 2 is it, unless season 2 blows the doors off. But this goes to my point of the prior conversation. I believe that's an indication that season 2 will not only have all the Defenders in it, but will be written as if it could end. So like they'll leave open, they could keep going, but it will be written with more of an ending than season 1 did. And I want to give you this stat because I think it's so... This tells you what you need to know. Netflix's Daredevil, which initially aired in 2018, I believe, was the first year this came out. No, I'm sorry, even earlier, 2015. 2015 was season 1. I apologize. 2015 was season 1. So 10 years ago. Season 1 of Daredevil reappeared in the Nielsen top 10 in 2022. The rerun, 7 years after it aired, was back in the top 10. Born Again did not have a single episode in its first run make the top 10. And the biggest beneficiary of Born Again coming on was what? Netflix's Daredevil. The viewership of that original show went up over 150% after Daredevil Born Again came out. Nobody cared about the Disney Plus version. They only cared and re-cared about the Netflix version. This is it. I don't see any way that season 2 makes up enough ground for them to justify season 3. And on top of that, there's a money question. So off of Andor, there's been talk of kind of like, I think Gilroy's actually been saying it, how like within Disney and within the Disney Plus, how basically they will never greenlight budgets for shows anywhere near what they've been. So like Andor itself would never happen now.
Unless it's a movie type situation.
Right. So it means like a Daredevil show, like even though that's not necessarily the most effects-driven show, they're not going to get handed a lot of budget to do season 2 or even season 3 if they get there. So I really think season 2, which is basically the wrap-up of the original order, is all you're ever going to see of Daredevil on Disney+. That's crazy, too.
It just shows me that, again, you have to ask yourself, who are the people creating this? Are they comic book fans or are they not? If they're not, if they're just skimming through pages and just want to do their own thing so they can put their own fingerprints on things, then that's not what we want here, man. This shows me that first 18 episode, whatever they did, they didn't want to lose it because of the money and start all over again. So they chopped it up and create this story to sort of, I guess, save money and use what they've done already to create this other thing. I think the way they ended Daredevil Born Again Season 1 sets up multiple seasons of trying to overcome what Kingpin has established at the end of that.
I agree. That would have been the idea at that point.
And now, because of what you attend, again, you're like, who's in the room? You're making these decisions, man. You gotta question that, because it's not what they've done is done, but what they did was created by a group of people who decided to write this. The first episode, the first original Born Again series was more funny, less Daredevil, more, I don't know.
It was legal procedural, like it was all daytime. He didn't put on the suit. Yep.
This is the source of your problems, yo. The Parliament isn't the Parliament anymore. The Parliament is now a group of individuals who know nothing about the comics, who don't care to know nothing about the comics, because we've said it, not we've said it, but it has been said on multiple occasions by different people that they're looking for people who are not so invested in the comics.
It was like the Mona Lisa was like in the display case in the Louvre. And then they acquired the rights, and they're like, all right, we're going to take it out. Here you go. Fucking like poured water all over it and messed it up. And, like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It's like, or like, what was it in Fast 7, right? That, what is that $3 million car that's at the top of the building? And there's like, there's 3 of these in the world. And what happens to that car? 10 minutes later, it's like crashing through all the buildings, getting totaled.
Yeah.
Disney messed this up, man. And as I said, the way you really know they messed this up was what people are like, you know what? I just want to go back and watch the Netflix one again. I'd rather watch that again than watch what you gave me. And that's the biggest thing as we get into the X-verse that makes you nervous.
This is the first. I gotta acknowledge this first. This is the first time Brian cursed on the show, and I want to curse really bad. I'm not that type of person that curses
angry,
too much.
Man. Like,
yeah, yo. It's like, what the hell, man?
It vexes me. I'm terribly vexed.
If we get a cancellation of Daredevil, this is nobody's fault but Disney, Kevin's, despite him trying to save it. This is him perhaps not delegating enough, or delegated too much to people he really didn't know that well in terms of their understanding of what needed to be done.
Well, it's a classic case of people, of the wrong kind of people saying, we know what's best for you, the audience. You don't know what's best for you. We know what's best for you. And what's best for you is to not continue the legacy of the Netflix show, but to actually try to create this other thing using some of the same cast, right? It's like they made elementary mistakes.
Oh, yeah. And you saw it visually in the first episode. You saw it in the first episode, what we saw.
And I have a feeling, I have a feeling that season 2 will be better. I think it will be more cohesive. I am a little nervous now. They're going to feel so much pressure that they will rush story and characters and stuff to try to make it a bigger spectacle. But I do think it'll be better. But it just shows you only get so many swings. The marketplace is so crowded. Yes, there's room for improvement. But it's as a unique circumstance where you took something that was unilaterally loved. Look at all the critic scores, audience scores, Metacritic scores. Like, everyone loves what Netflix did. And you crushed it. And you just can't get that back overnight. Like, one good episode doesn't bring people back to that.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. That's what it is, man.
And the warning signs have been there. That's the thing, right? Like, when we look back on this, we're gonna start looking real closely at like D'Onofrio's turn in Hawkeye, and like stuff like that, as being like, those were the early signs that this was going to go badly. That they didn't understand the value of what they had.
And it's not like here on the Nerd Gen Report, we said from the jump street, get everybody back. Get everybody back.
Or make something totally different. Like if you didn't want to do that, then don't bother with Charlie Cox. Don't bother with Vincent D'Onofrio, right? Like if you really wanted the clean break, which I would not have wanted, but if you really wanted to be like, hey, I don't want to have any confusion and any identification with the Netflix show, then you really needed to start over.
Yeah.
And totally. But the second you started bringing all the characters back, and then we're like, yeah, but we're not bringing the tone back. We're not bringing the writers back. We're not bringing the stunt choreography. Why?
Yeah. Because we know best.
Exactly. That's my point.
And we know what you guys want.
We're smarter than the guys that did it before. We're smarter than the audience. And, congrats. You outsmarted yourself into a likely cancellation.
The days and days, like my conversations with Kevin Feige, if I met him, have changed over time. It went from like talking Marvel and stuff like that to like, what the hell have you done to this franchise?
Well, we're getting close to, what are we on? Would it be volume 3? How many? We've done 2, right? We've done 2 of the 5. Should Kevin be fired shows?
We're at that point again. It's like, yo, we need a change, and a big major change needs to be at the top because he's the head of the table right there.
It's going to be, I'm going to reserve judgment until we see Doomsday, but if Downey as Doom is a fail, that to me is like
oh yeah, he's done.
That's it.
He's done. Kevin Feige will be done if Avengers doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
That's it. We're taking the keys and you can't drive anymore.
And no Star Wars for you. It's over. You have to go somewhere else. We'll give you a nice little package so you can enjoy, because what you've done is certainly extraordinary.
That being said, listen, I don't want to cast too much shade at him, because that being said, now we're doing pipe dream stuff. If Amazon acquired DC and announced Kevin Feige would oversee it, I still would actually view that as an exciting move.
An exciting move?
Absolutely.
Why?
I would feel like the steward is better, and so it might allow him to focus on the things that made him great in the first. Like, the reality is, he's been to a mountaintop and a peak that very few people have been to, which means it's in there. You can't totally dismiss that. And yes, I get it. Like, we see this all the time with athletes where you're trying to recapture a glory that they've lost and never get back. But like, his peak is so high that like the idea that he'd be out and never get another shot is ludicrous. You absolutely would have to give him at least one more chance with a fresh slate somewhere, with maybe some different controls and some different people in the room. But absolutely, like, he's such a junkie and he's such a nerd. Like, I would be curious if that ever happened, see what he would do with it.
Yeah. I think for me it'll be a tough situation, because I think he's not necessarily so far removed from his peak, but he's gone down a path of not being able to rein people in and make decisions that are, because look at what we're getting. Look at the headlines. Look at the frustration. It's not unknown to him. So he's moving forward regardless of what he perhaps thinks, or he's the guy leading the charge. Who knows? I would be concerned. I would still be wary, and I would give him a shot, but I just think that he needs to do something different after this. I think he needs to do something different. But let's see. You know what I keep thinking about? I keep thinking about the praise we gave Kevin, and deservingly so.
He earned it, though. Yeah, nobody earned it more than he did.
But now we're at this point. Was like we're fire Kevin Feige. You know what I'm saying?
It's the Bill Belichick of it all, right? He just doesn't have the 24-year-old girlfriend, right? But it's like, Bill Belichick's still the greatest. He's still the greatest football coach in NFL history. That's not debatable.
Yeah.
The resume speaks for itself. But his last few years were not good. And now we're finding out he's kind of maybe a weird cat and got some other stuff going on. But like, and I don't know that I want to be betting on North Carolina Tar Heels football next year. But like, it doesn't change the fact that his highs were what they were. Right? He won Super Bowls. His number's going to get retired. But I think there's a question. Has he lost the touch? We don't know. We don't know. Has he lost the touch? We're going to find out. If he pulls it off with Doomsday, I will stand corrected and I will applaud and I will be like, it's like No Way Home times 1,000. I'll be like, you pulled off something impossible.
I don't know if he's gonna do it. I have.
But No Way Home actually was a great example of showing like it was still in there, right? Because he's the one who pushed the story choice they made, and that's a $2 billion win. That would not have happened unless he swung at it. So he still has. And if Fantastic Four is really good, then you got to look at that and say, give him some credit for that. Like, it's still maybe in there, but
here's the thing, though. It may not be. I mean, Kevin Feige is certainly the one greenlighting these things, but even the good stuff, Thunderbolts, as of late. Again, people are out regardless of what you do, I think. And it's going to take a hell of a word of mouth to get people back in to give it a chance.
Oh, I agree. So those aren't the same. Like, so if your point is that Kevin should be ushered out of Marvel, especially if Doomsday doesn't do well, I agree with that. The question of whether Kevin should get a chance to run another studio on another day, I think is a different question. Because I don't think the audience is I don't think the broader audience is looking at it as like I'm not showing up because I hate Kevin Feige. They look at it as these movies aren't good. I don't care who's behind them. They're not good. I'm not caring. Right? We know who's driving that. You know, the nerds know who's driving that. Yeah. So I think both can be true. It could be Kevin's time at Disney and Marvel, but with some time off and getting another shot at something else, he might do great. Might still do great. So. He above all deserves at least one more chance to prove that.
Yeah. At least a chance to see, but I would be concerned. Like if it was me and I have a chance to have Kevin Feige run that, produce some movies, I'll be watching. I'll be like, yo, what are you doing? What is, there's a concern. You have to oversee a little bit closely what it is that he's trying to do. And whether you agree or, it's not like Bob Iger can make these decisions in terms of what's good and what's not. Not like obviously David Zaslav hasn't showed his knowledge about what's good and what's not. But Kevin Feige should, is what I'm saying. He should, and what we've gotten is not. So. Yeah. The frustration sets in with him because we know that he's the guy that's saying, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And we could also chalk it up to him, having to oversee so much. So much has, we have to do so much more now. It is difficult for him to really sit down with things. And we can chalk it up to that perhaps if you've given the opportunity to do something else, the focus would totally be on that and we'll perhaps get something good. But we'll see, man. This is just disappointing on everything Marvel, except for the little things like Fantastic Four. That's about it. I don't know what else. Everything else is a question mark.
A lot is riding on that, though, because that's the only movie we're getting for the next year. Like, the next movie is going to be Brand New Day, which hasn't even been shot yet.
Yeah.
And then Doomsday. So it's like, yeah, like this is a critical moment with Thunderbolts working critically, and most people like us saying it's pretty good, you should go see it, and other people saying, nah, I'm going to go see Lilo and Stitch, or I'm going to go see Mission Impossible instead. Critical moment, Fantastic Four in a crowded summer.
Yes.
Has to really make its mark.
So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of the news Marvel has laid out this week. A lot of concern, man. A lot of concern with each of these things that are coming up. There's a lot of hope for certain things. And the Daredevil thing, man, is just... Because if this doesn't work, we're not seeing Kingpin, perhaps not in our lifetime, and if ever done, it's hard to Vincent D'Onofrio, man, he is what he did with that character is just phenomenal, and to top that will be a difficult task. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. Hit that like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.